Hello, everybody, and welcome into the OKPreps Round Up powered by Excel Therapy. We're in our new studio, and we welcome you in to the best high school sports show heard all year round here in the state of Oklahoma. And we're kicking off our month-long preview of the upcoming football season here this morning on this August 6th edition of the program. You can catch the show anytime, anywhere, right here on okpreps.com. So we're happy to welcome you in this Saturday morning. We're going to have another jam-packed show as we do each and every single week. You're not going to hear from as many coaches as we bring you each and every single Saturday anywhere else. Nobody else has as many coaches joining them in a 2-hour span like we do here on the OKPreps Roundup. What are we going to be doing this month? Well, we're previewing the upcoming high school football season. It's officially August. August 1st rolled around. We released our preseason rankings on Monday. We're going to talk about that here in our first segment. We're also going to be previewing Class 3A, Class 2A, and Class A, all here within the next 2 hours. Coming up later on this month, starting next week, we will preview Class 5A and 4A. The week following, which will be August 20th, be sure and tune in for the 6A Division 1 and 6A Division 2 class preview. And then after that, it's football season, baby. I know what you're thinking. There's still one more Saturday in August left, August 27th. Teams are still scrimmaging. That's not the case anymore. Week 0 is in full swing now in Oklahoma. What is Week 0? It started last year with some of the smaller schools. Really, it started in 3A on down, where the smaller schools that were in off-balance districts, a team only has 7 or sometimes 6 schools in their district. What does that mean? Well, they play non-district games right smack dab in the middle of the district schedule, and those coaches, they didn't want to do it. They wanted to be able to play all of their non-district games up front. Why play a non-district game in the middle of October or sometimes even early November? You're risking your players as far as them getting hurt smack dab in the middle of a district race. So they wanted to play all their non-district games up front, and now some of the bigger schools are taking advantage of the Week 0 as well. And this year we have more Week 0 games than ever. Granted, this is only the second year that we've had it, but there are a lot of games in that first week. Technically Week 0, that second week that was supposed to be for scrimmages. So on the 27th, we'll actually be talking about games. So I know some of the more notable Week 0 games. You have 2 Tulsa schools going down to Texas. Union will be at South Lake Carroll. Broken Arrow will be traveling down to Euless Trinity. Here in the metro area in Tulsa, you have Jinx traveling to Owasso. Big marquee game there. So we have a lot of Week 0 games that will be up for grabs that first week here at the end of August. So starting on the 27th, we're talking football and we're recapping games, and that's what we're going to be able to do here each and every single Saturday on the OKPreps Roundup, powered by Excel Therapy. Once again, this will be our 3A, 2A, and Class A preview here in this first hour. We're going to talk a lot about Class 3A in addition to our preseason rankings coming up here later on in this segment. We're going to tell you about the storylines to follow in Class 3A, the players to watch, the preseason favorite, and I'm also going to give you a dark horse to follow as well, a team that's maybe flying under the radar right now, but by October, November, they're going to be well known in Class 3A. And then, of course, we have coaches joining us as well. Jones head coach Dave Martin, Anadarko head coach Kent Jackson, and Lincoln Christian head coach Darren Melton will all join us in the 2-hour program here in hour number 1. Coming up in hour number 2, we'll kick things off with the Class 2A preview. We'll do the same thing there, talk about the defending champ, storylines to follow, players to watch, and we also have 4 coaches joining us. Adair head coach Mark Lippy, they are the defending champs. We're going to bring them on live. Victory Christian head coach Ron Smith, yes, Victory Christian now down in Class 2A after playing the last several years in Class 3A. At 10:25 roughly, we're going to talk with Holland Hall head coach Tad Gross. Yes, Holland Hall now in their first year playing in the OSSAA competition after all those years traveling down to Texas in the SPC. They are now in the OSSAA, and they are in Class 2A and immediately a contender in Class 2A. And then we'll finish off the 2A preview talking with the new head coach at Vian, Gary Willis. He takes over for Brandon Tyler, who resigned this summer to take an assistant coach job over in Arkansas. And if we do have time, I might talk a little bit about that in our first segment, about all the coaches heading east or south to Texas to take jobs because of the way the educational system here in Oklahoma is starting to decline as far as the money that goes into education and all the budget cuts. We might have time to get into that a little bit here in this first segment. And then finally, we'll wrap things up with the Class A preview. And joining us live near the end of the show will be Cashin head coach Lynn Shackelford and Rejoice Christian head coach Brent Marley. So all that and more coming up in these next 2 hours. We do it every single Saturday morning. It's good to be back here with the OKPreps Round Up, powered by Excel Therapy. Football season is right around the corner. Football practice is opening up on Monday. Some schools are going to get after it at midnight. We're going to have a lot of team coverage starting on Monday with practice reports, videos, articles, you name it. We're going to have it on OKPreps.com. Also be on the lookout for the preseason all-state teams, the preseason storylines to follow for all classes. Also be on the lookout for some of the breakout stars that we might see this upcoming season. So a lot of content coming to OKPreps.com this month. Be sure to keep it right here on OK Preps. But we start with the preseason rankings. We released them on Monday. And, of course, they it's always up for debate when you're talking about preseason rankings. Let's go ahead and take a look at 6A Division I. And at the top, Union. No surprise there. The Redskins have arguably their most talented team since 2009. They got Division I prospects on offense, Division I prospects on defense. Really love what they're doing with Trey Brown. The really only question mark with Union is who do they get to play quarterback and manage the game. Brandon Birch no longer there. They got to figure out a new signal caller, but I got Union as the number one team in 6A Division I, and it really was a no-brainer. I think that they'll be the unanimous number one among many of the rankings that are out there. We have Union as the number one team in 6A Division I. Number two, little different than the usual. Southmore, the Sabercats, come in at number 2, and I talked a lot about them last year. Maybe it was a little too early for all that talent to really break through and contend for a state championship. They're 1 year older. You're talking about Quindon Lewis, Javarius Owens, Casey Thompson, Bray Walker, all guys who are Division I prospects who will be playing. Casey Thompson and Bray Walker, All-American candidates in the 2018 class. So Southmore with one of their best teams in school history, and arguably one of the more talented teams in the state regardless of class. So I have Southmore at number 2. We'll see if they're able to get over that mental hump, and we talk about it all the time with 6A and Union and Jinx in the 20 consecutive years that these two teams have dominated the class. Southmore has the talent to win a state championship. There's no doubt about that. When you're talking about Casey Thompson, Bray Walker, again, Quindon Lewis and Javarius Owens, just to name a few, they have other talented players in addition to those 4. They have the talent ready to win a state championship this year. They just have to get over that mental edge that Jinx and Union have had for 2 decades now. If they're able to do that, watch out. This is a team that could be scary. They're in that district with Union. They get the Redskins at home this year in October. It should be an interesting matchup there. Number 3, you have the 4-time defending champ Jinx Trojans. It's not too often that Jinx is coming off a 4-peat and coming in at not number 1 or number 2. They come in at number 3, and the reason for that, it's a completely new look for the Trojans. They have 10 new starters on defense, new quarterback. They got to replace Cooper Nunley, which is going to be a lot more difficult than some people realize. They don't have a Dylan Stoner that's ready to emerge at receiver and safety and punt returner and just a guy who did everything for the Trojans over the last 3-4 years. Jinx comes in at number 3 for me. They're still going to be really, really good, but I think that they have a lot of work ahead of them with all the new starters that they're trying to bring in, and you can't overlook the fact that they're going to be playing for Coach Alan Trimble as It was announced this summer. First, Coach Trimble announced that he was retiring. Then he decided to come back. Later in the month, actually it was in early July, he announced that he was battling Lou Gehrig's disease. This will more than likely be Coach Trimble's last season. He hasn't come out and said that, but I believe that it will be his last year at the helm for the Jinx Trojans. So you know that these players are going to be playing for him and try to get him to go out on top and win a 5th consecutive state title. But it's going to be tough. You know, a lot of new faces on this team, so they come in at number 3 for me. Rounding out the top 5 are Owasso and Broken Arrow. Owasso, I really like their defense. The offense still has some work to do, but they do return quarterback Troy Hudson. But they have talent all over this defense, so I don't expect Owasso to miss out on the playoffs again this year. They missed out on the playoffs for the first time in nearly 2 decades last year. I don't think that that's going to be, a repeat offense. I think that they'll make it back to the postseason this fall. Broken Arrow, they made it to the championship game last year. Same situation as Jinx. A lot of names to replace for Broken Arrow. They do return their quarterback, Cade Yeager, but they don't have Sammy Akim, Jamal Shaw, just to name a few. So they will have to replace some guys. Carter Key returns to lead the defense. We'll see what happens with the Tigers. Rounding out the top 10, 5 West Side schools with Norman North at 6, Westmore at 7, Mustang at 8, Edmond Memorial at 9, and then you have Moore at number 10. In 6A Division 2, you take a look at the top, no change there. The Bixby Spartans have owned 6A Division II as long as 6A Division II has been in class. It's been 2 years now, and they've won both state championships. They're the number 1 team coming into the preseason. As quarterback Tanner Griffin returns to air it out, they do have to find a new running back to replace Nick Roller. I think that Tucker Pauley will do a fine job at replacing him. They definitely are going to pass the ball a little bit more than they have in the past. They no longer have a running back who can tote the rock 40-45 times if the passing game isn't working out. But Tanner Griffin has had a fantastic offseason. I think that he'll have his best season yet this year as a senior. I got Bixby, the 2-time champs, as the number 1 team. Right behind them at number 2, Midwest City. Again, you're talking about a team that has all the talent in the world. They've had the talent the last couple of years, but they haven't been able to get the job done in the playoffs. Will this year be a different year for Midwest City as they head into 2016? Again, they have the talent to contend, but they have to go and back it up on the field. Number 3, you have Booker T. Washington, of course. Brad Caleb takes over the Hornet program after Marvin Danzler leaves to take over a program in Louisiana. Booker T has fallen in the semifinals the last couple of years. They do have to replace some key pieces off of last year's team, including All-State running back and Oklahoma State signee now over in Stillwater, Justice Hill. That's not going to be an easy task, but the Hornets, look, anytime it's Booker T. Washington, I don't care what the year is, they got talent over there in North Tulsa. So the Hornets are going to be good once again this fall. We have them at number 3. Coming in at number 4, the Lawton Wolverines. They won the district last year, but then got edged out by Bixby in the first round. I think the Wolverines return hungrier than ever. Running back Trey Curry, I think that he has a big year. I think that he'll rival what Mike Warren and Daryl Patterson have done in recent memory at the running back position for Lawton. I think that Lawton tries to contend and make it back to the state championship game like they did a few years ago. Coming in at number 5, a little bit of a surprise team, Putnam City West. This team has talent. Now, they don't have the recent success as far as making it to the playoffs, but watch out for the Patriots this year. This is a team that, if all the pieces fall into place, this team could make a run into the playoffs and further and surprise some teams. Led by quarterback Trey Gooch. They got 2 solid receivers in Chris Potts and Nick Robinson. Robinson already committed to Memphis. Both of those players, by the way, Potts and Robinson, starters on Putnam City West state championship basketball team. So phenomenal athletes as well. Rounding out the top 10 in 6A Division II, you got Sand Springs at 6, Muskogee at 7. Deer Creek now bumped up to 6A Division II. They're number 8. Stillwater comes in at number 9, and then Bartlesville at number 10. When you take a look at Sand Springs, made it to the championship game last year, fell short to Bixby. I think that they'll have another strong season. Again, this year they return their quarterback in Hunter Greathouse. And also they get a transfer in at running back, Scotty Patton, one of the better running backs in the state in the 2017 class. He comes over from Wagner, and he's going to really be able to boost that offense at Sand Springs. So they're a team that's on the outside looking in the top 5, but they're a team that definitely is top 5 talent-wise. In Class 5A, the number 1 team is last year's runner-up in the Collinsville Cardinals. The Cardinals come into 2016 as the favorites, and I think similar to Union, they're going to be number 1 in a lot of these Class 5A rankings. Collinsville has a loaded roster, offense, defense. Of course, everybody knows about Levi Draper. Quarterback Seth Boomer already committed to the University of Tulsa. This team has talent everywhere, and I think that after making it to the state championship game a year ago, losing in a heartbreaker to Altus on a field goal as time expired, Collinsville is going to come back this season and determined to win the state championship, make it back to that title game, and raise the gold ball. They have the talent to do it. Now they have to go out and prove it on the field. Lawton MacArthur, they survived a season-ending injury to their quarterback in week 2. They went on to the playoffs and made a big run. I believe they got tripped up in the quarterfinals. I know they lost to Collinsville, and I think that happened in the 5A quarterfinals. But Anthony Love, their quarterback, returns from the torn ACL last year. This was a guy who I thought would be a breakout star in 2015. Didn't get that chance to break out, was lost in week 2. So I think Lawton Mack and Anthony Love have a chance to really return to championship form. They won the state title a couple of years ago. I think they have the opportunity to do that again this year. But again, it all depends on Anthony Love. I saw him back in June, and he looked strong. He looked as good as he was last year before the torn ACL. So I don't think that there's going to be any scar tissue necessarily there. And a guy, you never know what's going to happen when he loses a full season. Comes back. Is he a little timid in the pocket trying to avoid some hits? He didn't at the camp that we were at, so looking forward to seeing his return and Lawton Mack's return. At number 3, you have McAllister. They made it to the 5A title game a couple years ago. They're back hungrier than ever. Watch out for Braden Klusak, a guy who is just an absolute speedster, lines up at receiver, cornerback. Some college coaches think that he could even play linebacker at the next level, so watch out for him. Graham Eaton as well, and James Singleton coming into his second year at the helm of McAllister, trying to get this team back to state championship form. And then number 4 and 5, you got the Bishop battle. Nothing wrong with that. Bishop McGinnis and Bishop Kelly. McGinnis at number 4, Kelly at number 5. The Irish have nearly 20 starters coming back off of last year's semifinal team. They do have to replace quarterback Jacob Mullins, but I think that they're going to be able to do that. And Bishop Kelly, they arguably have their most talented team in recent memory, as the Comets have been building to this season, as they've had a lot of underclassmen play the last couple of years. Experience will definitely be on their side as they head into the 2016 season. So you got a little Bishop battle there to round out the top 5. And rounding out the top 10, you got Shawnee at 6, Carl Albert at 7, Noble at 8, Guthrie at 9, and then the defending champion Altus Bulldogs coming in at number 10. Look, they lose a lot, including their head coach Jeremy Reed, who brought a lot of heart and soul into that program. Losing Taven Bordeaux, one of the player of the year candidates from a year ago, it's not going to be easy. You don't just plug in another guy that has the talent that Taven Bordeaux had. And also, I think that a lot of people are focusing in on that running back position. Who's going to replace Taven? I want to know who's going to replace Jaden Benway, the quarterback for Altus. They run that flexbone option offense, and whoever's the quarterback in that offense is vital to the option attack. Who's going to replace Jaden Benway in that, and is he going to be able to have as much success as Jaden had both last year on offense and defense? I don't know, so we'll see. Altus coming in at number 10. They are the defending champs. They have turned around that program after going 7-4 the year before. They are the state champs coming into this season, so we'll see what happens there. In Class 4A, you have Wagner at number 1. No secrets there. Oologah comes in at number 2. Heritage Hall moving up from Class 3A where they won the last 2 state titles. They come in at number 3 for us. I really like the Chargers. Yeah, they have to replace Tevin McDaniel. They have to replace Terrell Love. But I think that Blake Adams, their quarterback, was really undervalued for what he did. And when I say undervalued, I mean throughout the media. Everybody talked about Tevin McDaniel and Tank Love, but they overlooked what Blake Adams did last year as a sophomore at quarterback. The dude threw for over 30 touchdowns and just 4 interceptions in his first year starting at QB. He had to replace arguably their best quarterback in school history in Connor McGinnis, and Blake Adams comes in and does a phenomenal job, leads them to an undefeated season in a state championship. I don't think that he got enough credit for what he did last year. He's coming back. The Chargers are still going to be very talented. The schedule also sets up nicely as far as the district opponents that they have. I think that Heritage Hall will contend once again. Rounding out the top 5, you got a couple of powerhouses historically in Oklahoma high school football, with Tuttle coming in at number 4, Clinton coming in at number 5. Rounding out the top 10, you have Poto at 6, Cash at 7, Cassia Hall and Metro Christian at 8 and 9 respectively, and then Ada comes in at number 10 as they continue to search for the state championship number 20, which of course leads the state all time in state championships. They have 19 currently. In Class 3A, the number 1 team for us, the Jones Longhorns. I love this offense. I love what they did last year, making it to the semifinals. They got beat up by Lincoln Christian in the semis. I think that they're hungry to avenge that loss and make it a little bit further than they did last year. Quarterback Brandon George, wide receiver Sean Shaw, arguably the best quarterback-receiver duo in the state. In fact, I believe that they are. I love this offense. I think that they're going to put up a lot of points. The defense also pretty talented as well. You have Anna Darko at 2 after dropping down from Class 4A to 3A. Remember, last time that they were in 3A, they won the state championship led by Sheldon Wilson as they dominated Cassia Hall in the 3A title game a few years ago. They're back in 3A and looking to contend once again. Rounding out the top 5, you have John Marshall at 3, Lincoln Christian at 4, and Sulphur comes in at number 5. The rest of the top 10 looks like this: Douglas at 6, Seminole at 7, Berry Hill at 8, Stigler at 9, and Claremore Sequoia at 10. We got to go through the rest of the rankings a little quicker now as we got to get to our 3A preview coming up after initial break. 2A, number 1, Adair, the defending champs for a reason. I think that they're the favorite coming into this year. Davis at number 2, Victory Christian at number 3. Chisholm and Vian round out the top 5 at 4 and 5 respectively. The rest of the top 10, Washington at 6, Okemah at 7, Hennessy at 8, Millwood at 9, and then you have Holland Hall, first year in OSSA competition. They're at number 10 in the 2A preseason rankings. Class A, number 1 is Cashin, number 2 is Hominy, number 3 is Fairview. Wayne comes in at number 4. OCA comes in at number 5. In Class B, we got 8-man rankings as well. Number 1, Sealing, number 2, Caddo, number 3, Davenport, number 4, Allen, and number 5 is Geary. And in Class C, you have Palm Creek Hunter at 1, Tipton at 2, Deer Creek Lamont at 3, Thackerville at 4, and Blue Jacket at 5. You can check out the complete preseason rankings right now on OKPreps.com. But right now we have to take a time out. When we come back, we're going to be previewing the Class 3A season. I'm going to talk about players to watch, storylines to follow. We're going to recap who won the state title last year, who's the favorite coming into this year, and we also have 3 head coaches coming up in the next 30 minutes or so. So stay tuned right here. This is the OKPreps Round Up. I'm your host, Michael Knight. We're powered by our good friends at Excel Therapy.
Your injury recovery goals, plus Excel Therapy's expertise, are your winning game plan. At Excel, our number 1 goal is to get you back to peak performance as quickly as possible. Our physical therapy and sports medicine professionals will take you from setback to comeback.
Spartan College of Aeronautics and Technology's flight program is designed to get you flying in your first week. You can spend less time in lectures and more time practicing what you've learned, so you could be certified in only 12 months. Also, our degree graduates are able to go for their ATP certification with reduced flight hours. Train for a career as a cargo, corporate, or airline pilot. For more information on starting an exciting new career, go to spartan.edu.
When you tell somebody you're in high voltage, they always call you crazy because you got to climb them poles and work with line and stuff. So something that not everybody can do, kind of like a cop and a firefighter. It's, it takes a special person to do it, to get out and work on electric lines and climb poles and work all hours of the night. It makes me pretty proud, to be in the category of those kind of people that, can do this kind of work. So somebody that people can look up to.
Learn more at osuit.edu/high voltage.
Earn only 1 year at Spartan College of Aeronautics and Technology. Train to be a professional pilot, and you can be doing what you love. See the world, savor the rush, and get the freedom of soaring above the clouds. The best seat on the plane? It's waiting for you at Spartan College. Call now.
Welcome back to the OKPreps Round Up, powered by Excel Therapy. We do it every single Saturday morning right here on your home for high school sports, okpreps.com/roundup. You can watch it live. You can watch it on demand. We'll also have Roundup Rewind segments, so if you miss an interview with your head coach, your school, whatever it may be, we'll have that as well on okpreps.com after the fact. So you don't have to go searching through the 2-hour program, although we'd love for you to do that. We'll be able to upload those individual coach interviews so you can get to your coach, hear about your school, your team this upcoming season. We'll have that available as well right here on okpreps.com. This segment, we're previewing Class 3A coming up next. In the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to hear from Jones head coach Dave Martin, Anadarko head coach Kent Jackson, and Lincoln Christian head coach Darren Melton. All that and more coming up here in the next 30 minutes. But here in this segment, we're talking about the Class 3A 2016 season, and we're going to have a new champion. Who's last year's champion? Well, it's the team that's been dominating 3A the last couple of years. You've seen them dominate live on the OK Preps Network. I'm talking about Heritage Hall. The Chargers are no longer a threat in Class 3A as they bump up to 4A. We'll talk plenty about the Chargers next week in our Class 4A preview. But Brett Bogert and his Chargers moving up to 4A. They absolutely dominated last year as they ran through the season undefeated, absolutely dismantled Lincoln Christian. And if you were at that state championship game, you know that Heritage Hall just absolutely roughed up Lincoln in that title game as they run away with the championship. They move on to Class 4A as the two-time defending state champs in Class 3A. So we're guaranteed to have a new champion this year as Heritage Hall gets on out and moves on to Class 4A. As look, it's a private school. They've had too much success in 3A, so they move on up to Class 4A. And I still think that they'll contend. I think that they'll move on to 4A. And the question mark is, and we'll go over this a lot next week in our 4A preview, how will Heritage Hall contend in 4A, considering Cassia Hall had a bunch of success in 3A? They moved up to 4A, and they've been making the playoffs, but they haven't been able to take that next step, make quarterfinal, semifinal trips. I think Heritage Hall is a little bit of a different story. I really like that Charger program. Of course, you can watch their games live on the OK Preps Network every single week, and we've been able to witness what they've done the last couple of years, and I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. But that is good news for Class 3A as they're gone. They might be not going anywhere anytime soon, but 3A doesn't have to worry about it anymore. And so, storylines to follow for this year, it's simple. Who takes the reins of Class 3A now that Heritage Hall is gone? Who's going to take over this class? Who's going to dominate? And the answer to that is a little interesting when you think about, I don't think there is a dominant team anymore. I don't think that we're going to see, 3, 4, even 5 teams go undefeated in the regular season. I think that this class, more so this year than the last couple of years, is very even when you look at the top 10. So when it talks about, who takes the reins of Class 3A football, I don't know. I think obviously you have your contenders in Jones, John Marshall, Anadarko now in Class 3A. Lincoln Christian has been right there on the doorstep the last couple of years. But who's going to take over? It's going to be interesting to follow this season. 3A, I think more so this year than in previous years, is more wide open than ever. as far as the team taking over. Heritage Hall, I think that they were the unanimous number one team last year. You take a look at programs like Locust Grove. They might take a step back now that Mason Fine and Jason Pirtle have graduated. Head coach Matt Hennessy will try to convince you that, look, they just reload, but I think that they will have to take a step back. You don't just replace Mason Fine with someone else. The dude set records his entire career. It's going to be difficult for them to make it, through another undefeated season on into the playoffs and make another run at it. Lone Grove, what happens to them? They absolutely dismantled Locust Grove in the playoffs last year. They don't have Jeremy Lewis now, so what happens with them? So 3A football, I think, is wide open this fall. And when you talk about some of the teams that might take over, I think you have to look at Anadarko as being an instant contender as they drop down to 4A. Last time that they were in 3A, they dismantled Cassia Hall in a state championship game. I believe that was 2011, maybe 2010, 2011, one of those 2 years. They dismantled Cassia Hall in the state title game behind Sheldon Wilson. They move up to 4A, and they continue to absolutely roll. So this is a team that has had a lot of success over the last 5 to 6 years, and now that they drop down to 3A, I think that will continue this year as the Warriors become an instant contender in Class 3A. And another storyline for me personally, I love what Rashawn Woods has been able to do at John Marshall. 4 years ago, this program was, you saw them on the schedule, you just chalked up the W. You thought you were going to go in, knock off John Marshall, pretty much have a bye week and move on. This was a team that lost nearly every single week, and now they are a contender every year. It started a couple of years ago. Last year they finished the regular season undefeated, I believe, and made a deep run into the playoffs. And this team does have the talent coming back with skill players. They do have to replace a lot of seniors from last year's team, including All-American Tremonda Moore. But they have another All-American in Justin Broyles, a running back who I think is going to be really fun to watch this year in Devontae Lee. And I think that they have another potential All-American on the line with Nigel Brandon. That's a name to watch out for as far as recruiting circles go. He's an offensive defensive lineman for John Marshall, and I think that he might be the next in line to take over for what Tremonda Moore did the last couple of years. So John Marshall continuing to become a contender under Rashawn Woods. I love the revitalization of that program in Oklahoma City. Some players to watch in Class 3A. I'm going back to Jones. I talked about it a little bit with the Jones Longhorns as far as their firepower on offense. Brandon George and Sean Shaw. I think that they're the best quarterback-receiver combo in the state. That's what I believe, and I think that there's a lot of people out there that would agree along those lines. Brandon George, we had him ranked as the number 2 quarterback in our OKPreps big board. Sean Shaw also up there very high in our receiver big board rankings, which ranks the top 10 players at each position in the state regardless of class. Brandon George, phenomenal year last year. He was a player of the year candidate after what he was able to do. He can beat you with his arm, he can beat you with his legs. And then Sean Shaw, what else do you have to say? We saw him in that first game of the season live on the OKPreps network where they knocked off Bayan. And anytime Brandon George had any problems, he would just throw it up to Sean Shaw. Sean Shaw at 6'6", and that's a legitimate 6'6". He just jump up and go get it. So it's a very dangerous quarterback-receiver combo you have there. Jones also has other weapons besides those guys as well. So Brandon George, Sean Shaw, definitely going to be a fun combination to watch this year. I believe that they're 2 of the better players in their classes, respectively. Another player to watch for me is Reed Martin from Lincoln Christian. He's now going to get the bulk of the carries at running back now that Brady Williams has transferred to Berry Hill. Also, Micah Wilson at quarterback, no longer there. Landon Brown, a very capable guy at QB, but let's be honest, he's not Micah Wilson. Micah Wilson was our player of the year last year. He's now at Missouri. Landon Brown, not going to be able to necessarily fill those shoes. He's going to be more of a game manager. And so Reed Martin, now his role really steps up, both offensively and defensively, as the heart and soul of this team. We'll see what happens with Lincoln Christian as they try to make it back to the Class 3A state championship game. And Reed Martin will definitely be a very important piece to them making it back to that title game. And a guy I mentioned, Devontae Lee from John Marshall, a running back. Some people in the John Marshall program are comparing him to Samaje Perine at Oklahoma. I think that that's maybe a little far-fetched, but you talk about their style of body, styles of running, and they're similar as far as being a bigger running back. Devontae Lee, his lower body strength is extremely impressive to watch as far as breaking tackles. You can't go high. You can't really go low. You really have to gang tackle him to bring him down. Devontae Lee, I think, is going to have a huge season this year in Class 3A, so he's definitely a guy to watch. But my preseason favorite, I make no secret about it, they're our number one team coming into the year, the Jones Longhorns. Their offense is stacked. They got close last year. They finished the regular season undefeated. They made it all the way to the semifinals. They fell short, losing to a buzzsaw in Lincoln Christian. But I think that this offense is a powerful one with Jones under head coach Dave Martin. I think that they're the preseason favorite headed into Class 3A into this season. That's why we have them ranked at number one. We're going to find out a lot about Jones in those first 4 weeks because their non-district schedule is brutal. But I think that they have what it takes to go on and win the state championship this year. They have the talent to do it. They got to back it up on the field. A dark horse for me, a guy who's coming into his first season is Matt Hagabush at Claremore Sequoia. I like the Eagles, what they've done over the last couple of years. They now have a new head coach. Coach Hagabush had a lot of success at Nowata and brought Nowata to a state championship game appearance a couple years ago in Class 2A. I think that he comes over to Claremore Sequoia and has immediate success because the Eagles have talent there. They made a run to the playoffs last year, and they returned a lot of those guys. So I think that Claremore Sequoia, kind of right there on the fringe of being a top 10 team, is a team to watch out for. They could be dangerous. The biggest question mark is, are they better than Berry Hill? They're in that district with Berry Hill. Lincoln Christian no longer in that district. They don't have to worry about the Bulldogs. Can the Eagles get over Berry Hill, get a couple home playoff games, and then see what they can do come November? I like Claremore Sequoia as a dark horse to watch out for, a team that's kind of flying under the radar right now, but they won't be come October. That's a look at Class 3A. When we come back from a short timeout, we're going to get Jones head coach Dave Martin on the line, Kent Jackson from Anadarko, and Darren Melton from Lincoln Christian as we continue to preview the upcoming Class 3A season here on the OKPreps Round Up, powered by Excel Therapy. I'm your host, Michael Knight. We continue our 3A preview coming up next.
Your injury recovery goals, plus Excel Therapy's expertise, are your winning game plan. At Excel, our number one goal is to get you back to peak performance as quickly as possible. Our physical therapy and sports medicine professionals will take you from setback to comeback.
Spartan College of Aeronautics and Technology's flight program is designed to get you flying in your first week. You can spend less time in lectures and more time practicing what you've learned, so you could be certified in only 12 months. Also, our degree graduates are able to go for their ATP certification with reduced flight hours. Train for a career as a cargo, corporate, or airline pilot. For more information on starting an exciting new career, go to spartan.edu.
Who's got the best seat on the plane? The pilot, of course. And it could be you sitting there in only 1 year at Spartan College of Aeronautics and Technology. Train to be a professional pilot, and you could be doing what you love. See the world, savor the rush, and get the freedom of soaring above the clouds. The best seat on the plane? It's waiting for you at Spartan College. Call now.
When you tell somebody you're in high voltage, they always call you crazy because you got to climb them poles and work with line and stuff. So something that not everybody can do, kind of like a cop and a firefighter. It takes a special person to do it, to get out and work on electric lines and climb poles and work all hours of the night. It makes me pretty proud, to be in the category of those kind of people that, can do this kind of work. So somebody that people can look up to.
Learn more at osuit.edu/high voltage.
Your injury recovery goals, plus Excel Therapy's expertise, are your winning game plan. At Excel, our number one goal is to get you back to peak performance as quickly as possible. Our physical therapy and sports medicine professionals will take you from setback to comeback.
Welcome back to the OKPreps Round Up, powered by Excel Therapy. I'm your host, Michael Knight. We do it every single Saturday morning right here on okpreps.com/roundup. We welcome you into our new studio, our new digs. Again, we're powered by Excel Therapy. Coming up just shortly, we're going to hear from Jones head coach Dave Martin. Also coming up this segment, we're going to talk with Anadarko head coach Kent Jackson, as well as Lincoln Christian head coach Darren Melton, as we preview the upcoming Class 3A season. And coming up next week, I want to remind you that we will be previewing the 5A and 4A seasons. Again, we're going to do all the same thing. We're going to talk about the teams to watch, players to watch, storylines to follow, preseason favorite, dark horse, all of those things. And plus, we're going to have coaches. You're going to hear from a lot of coaches next week in both 4A and 5A. The same can be said about the following week in 6A Division I and 6A Division II. When we talk about the preseason favorite, we're going to have coaches from all over the state joining us again live on August 20th. So this month we're leading up to the start of the high school football season. It's a great time to be a high school football fan. All you have to do is stay here on OKPreps.com. We're going to have you covered. Practices again opening up on Monday, and we'll have plenty of coverage from that, as well as both team reports, video reports, everything and more coming up starting on Monday. So be sure and keep it right here with OKPreps.com. We're trying to get a hold of Jones head coach Dave Martin, and joining us now on the line is the head coach of the Jones Longhorns, our preseason #1 team in our Class 3A preseason rankings. Dave Martin joins us now on the OKPreps Roundup, powered by Excel Therapy. Coach, how are you doing this morning? Coach, we got you? One second. Class 3A preseason rankings. Dave Coach, Martin we got you? Joins us now on the OK.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now. All right, we appreciate you joining us. Glad we got that worked out as Jones head coach Dave Martin is with us here live. Coach, I talked about it, how our preseason rankings were released on Monday. We have the Jones Longhorns as the preseason #1 team in Class 3A. I love the offense. I came out there during the spring and saw you guys practice a little bit. Obviously, everybody knows about Brandon George and Sean Shaw. How has the offseason gone for the Jones Longhorns as you prepare for the 2016 season?
Well, we feel like we had a great spring. Kids through their summer workouts did an incredible job, investing the time and making all the sacrifices throughout the summer to come in and get bigger and faster and stronger, and basically continue on through our off-season type workouts to prepare us for the year.
Now, when you talk about the two players I mentioned, Brandon George and Sean Shaw, me personally, I think that they're the best quarterback-receiver combination in the state. When you take a look at what Brandon was able to do last year as a junior and really, turn away some of those turnovers that he had as a sophomore, dual-threat guy, threw for over 2,000 yards, ran for over 1,000, put up a lot of numbers. Sean Shaw, the dude is a freak at 6'6" and able to run the way he runs. What is it about those two guys that make this offense so deadly?
Well, first start with Brandon, which he has dedicated himself throughout the off season. Brandon's gotten bigger, faster, and stronger. I mean, he's right there at about 205 pounds. His speed, he's down below a 4.6. In that range on 40 time and stuff, and he just really wanted to up his game. I mean, knew what we had to do as an offense and him as a player at the end of the year to extend this on and put ourselves in a situation for this year to be in contention in an incredible tough class.
And now I mentioned coming in with Jones, the non-district schedule is brutal, and we're going to learn a whole lot about the Longhorns after the first 4 weeks, and that's something that you and I discussed as well during the spring. What do you expect from your team in the first 4 or 5 weeks as you head into a Class 3A season that, in my opinion, I think that 3A is more wide open this year than it's been in recent memory, because I don't think that there's a Heritage Hall, a team that, is going to go from week 1 to week 15 just dominating every single week. I think it's more wide open this year than ever before. But again, that non-district schedule is very tough, and it's going to get you ready for a 3A season.
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, we set that up in that aspect that we know we're going to get pushed, and like I talked to our kids this summer, the biggest thing is us keeping our focus, and I mean, it's got to be 1-0 every day. That means every day of practice, every day of workout. We can't look past a week on our schedule with our expectations. It's got to be every day. We got to come off the field and feel like we won. And, that's one of our big things in our locker room. We'll have a sign in there that says 1-0 every day, and we got to live by it.
Now, you guys made it to the semifinals a year ago, ran into a buzzsaw in the semis against Lincoln Christian. What's going to be different about this year's team? You have to replace a couple of guys, but again, I talk about how the offense is so special. They have the chance to be one of the best in the state, regardless of class, putting up a lot of points as far as what we're looking at this year. What has to happen for Jones to take that next step, get past the semifinals, make it to a state championship game, and be raising the gold ball come December?
Well, we feel like what we've done throughout the spring and replacing some of the defensive guys that we lost, feel like we got a group of guys on the defensive side that give us a very, very good chance to be as strong as we were defensively last year. Michael, our biggest thing is playing a bunch of kids. Our biggest thing that we tell our guys is we're going to try to play as many on one side of the ball, and you're going to maximize the quality of snaps that you take. And with the explosion and everything that we expect on offense, it's the same thing on defense, which has been a huge tradition at Jones for years and years and years. We're going to play physical. We're going to play fast. And as more guys as we can step into those roles and go out there and take quality snaps, we feel really good about ourselves. And that kind of showed out throughout some of the spring. As we were in spring ball and some things that kind of gave us a really keen idea of what it was going to look like this fall.
Coach, I appreciate your time this morning. Always good catching up with you. I know that the season it opens up in a couple weeks. Practice starts on Monday. It's football time in Oklahoma. Thanks so much for joining us here for our 3A preview.
Hey, Michael, thanks a bunch, and thanks what you guys do for high school football.
I appreciate the kind words. That's Jones head coach Dave Martin joining us here on the OKPreps Round Up, powered by Excel Therapy. We're about to catch up with Anadarko head coach Kent Jackson as the Warriors drop down from Class 4A to 3A, and we just talked with Coach Martin, the preseason number 1 team in Class 3A, and the number 2 team in those rankings are the Anadarko Warriors as they drop down to Class 3A and instantly become contenders in the class that the last time that they were in 3A, they won a state title as they dominated Cassia Hall en route to a state championship. Joining us now is their head coach, Kent Jackson. Coach, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Always good catching up with you, Coach. And I know football time is here in Oklahoma. Anadarko dropping down to Class 3A this year. It makes the road to a state championship a little more manageable as you drop down. You won't be dealing with the big dogs in Class 4A anymore, especially a Wagner program that seems like they're en route to a 3rd consecutive state title. What's going to be the biggest joy to dropping down to 3A? I know that there's still going to be some hurdles to overcome, but definitely you're not having to deal with some of the bigger programs in 4A now as you drop back down to 3A.
Well, we get that a lot. Everybody tells us, how easy it's going to be now that we drop down and things are going to be a lot more simple. And, that's not the case. And I think if you look at our schedule, we played Douglas and John Marshall. Both of them are going to be top 5 teams. So we're going to find out where we're at really early. And hopefully, after we get through those guys, our schedule gets a little bit easier and get healthy for the playoffs. But, the top teams in 3A they're good too. And I know Wagner's good. And we've been really good in 4A as well. And if it wasn't for a couple of years of just some horrific injuries that we've had, we might have had a little more success. But, we're looking forward to 3A. We're looking forward to, playing some new teams. We've got a whole new schedule this year. And hopefully there'll be a little intimidation factor maybe with us dropping down, and it might make things a little easier on us.
And now let me ask you about that. You bring up the injuries that you've suffered the last couple of years that have really kind of derailed this team's hopes at contending and winning a state championship. How difficult is that to manage? Because, look, you can't plan for it, obviously. Best case scenario, you just stay healthy throughout the year. But the last couple of years, you've been snake bit. Have you, changed anything you've done in off-season workouts to kind of, or practices during the week to kind of change the mindset of these kids so maybe they're not working so hard or whatever it may be? How do you adjust to that?
Well, we haven't changed anything. There was a 5-year span there where we basically didn't have any injuries. And, the law of averages the last 2 years have just caught up with us. So, our kids, our summer workouts are pretty tough. They've got a lot of publicity over the last several years of the speed camps that we have. And we had another great summer this summer. And, our guys are ready to go. And injuries are part of the game. You can't make any excuses about it. And you can't dwell on it, look at last year and be sad about it. We'll just keep going. So, hopefully, we stay injury-free. I think we're going to be pretty good. I think we're going to be really good defensively this year. So, we're looking forward to it.
Now, who are some of the guys that are going to step up this year for Anadarko? I know in the past you've had some big names throughout this program. Who are some of the guys who are going to try to shine on Friday nights this season?
Well, on offense, we have Trayson's our returning tailback. We expect a lot of big things out of Trey. Trey's started it for us as a freshman. He'll be a junior this year, and we really need him to step up and carry the bulk of the offense. Dayton Mosier is going to come in at quarterback. We went 3 years with Tyler Melton. We went 3 years with Brandon Pollard, and then the last 2 years we've had senior quarterbacks, so it's been something a little different for us, but we have a lot of confidence in Dayton. And then, the offensive line, we always kind of hang our hat on those guys. Dave Granger is a returning 3-year starter. Teague Stans is coming back, Billy Nunn. And those same three are going to be counted on heavily on defense, too, on the D-lines and up front. So, like I said, we expect to be able to move the ball, hopefully throw the ball more than we did last year and kind of be a little more diverse.
And finally, Coach, you mentioned the schedule that you're going to have to face, especially early on. John Marshall, Douglas, two state championship contenders in Class 3A early on in the schedule. What has to happen for this team to contend for a state championship? What's the biggest key if you had to name one thing that has to happen for this team to contend for a state title come December?
Well, I hate to sound redundant, but you really stay healthy. When you end up with a team that's different than the one you started, that's never really a good thing. So, I think still stay healthy. But the second thing is, I thought we were average defensively last year. I'd like for us to be a lot better defensively. I think we can do that. And, I think as sound as we can be defensively, I think that'll help our offense get started and run out a few kinks because we are starting a new quarterback and a couple of new offensive linemen, and we'll just need a little bit more time to get going.
Coach, I appreciate the time. Always good catching up with you for our Class 3A preview this season. Good luck as you open up practice on Monday and start the season later on this month.
Appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's Anadarko head coach Kent Jackson joining us here on the OKPreps Round Up, powered by Excel Therapy, about to finish up our Class 3A preview with Lincoln Christian head coach Darren Melton. The Bulldogs made it all the way to the 3A state championship game a year ago. They're going to try to make it back there, but obviously the biggest key is replacing Micah Wilson. We'll talk with Coach Melton here now as we bring him on live. Darren Melton joins us here on the OKPreps Roundup, powered by Excel Therapy. Coach, how are you doing this morning?
Great, Michael. Great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Always fun talking a little Lincoln Christian football here on Saturday mornings as Lincoln, once again, one of the top teams in Class 3A, despite the graduation of the reigning OKPreps Player of the Year in Micah Wilson. Let's talk a little bit about Landon Brown. Let's start the conversation there. The new signal caller for this Lincoln Christian offense. What does Landon bring to this offense that maybe is a little different than what Micah has brought the last 3-4 years?
Landon's a guy that's been in the backup position now for several years, and it's kind of waited his turn, and he's been a starter actually on our team since he was a freshman. He's been in our secondary, so he's got game experience, just not at the quarterback position. And but he's had a great summer. I think he's really excited about being his turn, and he's worked hard and can throw the ball, does a great job of delivering it. understands the offense, has a great feel for what we're trying to do, what we're trying to get done, and really has come around with the leadership that it brings, the position brings. So we're excited about him being there and what the possibilities are for this coming season.
In my last segment, I talked about some of the players to watch in Class 3A, and one of the guys that I named is your running back, Reed Martin. Obviously going to have a more expanded role in this offense, I'm assuming, considering Micah's not going to be airing it out as much. Landon might not be airing it out as much, I should say, as Micah did the last couple of years. So Reed really going to take charge in that backfield, plus what he does for you guys defensively as well. I talked about him being the heart and soul of this team, both offense and defense. What has he done this offseason to help make sure that his senior year is one to remember?
Well, just, again, just putting in time, just in the weight room and training, speed and the conditioning of training that we've had outside. And we expect a lot of Reed. He's the guy that's been on the field now. This will be his 4th year, and a big physical running back that's going to be behind a big physical offensive line that we hope, and defensively plays our Sam position, and we ask a lot of our Sam, and his physical abilities allow us to do a lot of different things with him. So between that and just some special teams things that he is very good at, we're really again excited about seeing what Reed is going to bring to us in his senior season, and I think he's ready to go.
So what does Lincoln have to do to make it back to that state title game? You don't have to worry about Heritage Hall anymore. They've moved on to Class 4A. You got so close last year. What does this year's team have to do to get over that edge and raise a gold ball in Class 3A?
Well, I just think we have to get better every week. We're going to have to be consistent, and it's just all about that, getting better, staying healthy, peaking at the right time of year, and those first few games, first few scrimmages, just really trying to establish an identity, and so I just think consistency throughout the year, and when you start hitting weeks 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, peaking at that time, playing your best football, and staying the course, understanding what we do on both sides of the ball, and just fundamentally being sound, and all of those great phrases we like to use as coaches, but it's true, and so I think if we do those things, we'll be very competitive in the 2016 season.
Now, what's the biggest hurdle that Lincoln has to overcome? Because new quarterback, you have to replace Alec Davidson, who, a lot of press was all about Micah, but Alec had a phenomenal season at the receiver position. You have a new district as well. What's going to be the biggest hurdle to overcome this fall for Lincoln?
I just think it's just going to be a bunch of guys in new positions. We graduated a phenomenal class. The guys had played for 3, some of them 4 years. And I've been asked a bunch of times, what's the team going to be like? And I said, we're not young. We're inexperienced right now. And I think once we get some game time under our belt, once we get game hard, I think we're very competitive. We're really excited about our team. We really are. We know 3A year in, year out is very tough. We're going to have to go out and play week in, week out, and not pick up at any time. So I think it's just getting some guys some time, but we're very excited at the possibilities, and it's really going to be a fun putting this puzzle back together.
Yeah, absolutely, and we have a lot of confidence in Lincoln Christian as well. We ranked you guys number 4 in our preseason rankings in Class 3A on Monday, and I mentioned it before several times. 3A, more so this year than the last several years, I think is more wide open. There's not necessarily a dominant team this year. There's a lot of really, really good teams, but there's not necessarily a dominant team. So 3A football definitely going to be one to watch this fall. And Coach, I always enjoy my conversations with you. Thanks so much for joining us here for our 3A preview show.
Thank you, Michael.
That's Lincoln Christian head coach Darren Melton joining us here on the OKPreps Round Up, powered by Excel Therapy. Coming up, we're going to preview Class 2A, we're going to preview Class A, and then we're out of here for this week. We've got 4A and 5A coming up next week, but up first, we're talking Class 2A football after the break. This is the OKPreps Roundup. I'm your host, Michael Knight, and we're powered by Excel Therapy.
Your injury recovery goals, plus Excel Therapy's expertise, are your winning game plan. At Excel, our #1 goal is to get you back to peak performance as quickly as possible. Our physical therapy and sports medicine professionals will take you from setback to comeback.
When you tell somebody you're in high voltage, they always call you crazy because you got to climb them poles and work with line and stuff. So something that not everybody can do, kind of like a cop and a firefighter. It takes a special person to do it, to get out and work on electric lines and climb poles and work all hours of the night. It makes me pretty proud, to be in the category of those kind of people that, can do this kind of work. So somebody that people can look up to.
Learn more at osuit.edu/high voltage.
Spartan College of Aeronautics and Technology's flight program is designed to get you flying in your first week. You can spend less time in lectures and more time practicing what you've learned, so you could be certified in only 12 months. Also, our degree graduates are able to go for their ATP certification with reduced flight hours. Train for a career as a cargo, corporate, or airline pilot. For more information on starting an exciting new career, go to spartan.edu.
Your injury recovery goals, plus Excel Therapy's expertise, are your winning game plan. At Excel, our #1 goal is to get you back to peak performance as quickly as possible. Our physical therapy and sports medicine professionals will take you from setback to comeback.
Welcome back to the OKPreps Roundup, powered by Excel Therapy. I'm your host, Michael Knight. We do it every Saturday morning from 9 until 11. And we do it right here on your home for high school sports, OKPreps.com. You can watch the show. You can watch replays. You can catch individual coaches' interviews as well with our Roundup Rewind segment. So catch it all right here on OKPreps.com. And I remind you again, starting on Monday, we're going to have team reports. We're going to have videos. We're going to have our preseason all-state team released at some point next week. Not sure on the day exactly right now, but I will be going out to practices starting on Monday every single day. So we'll have video reports. We'll have interviews with coaches, players, all of that and more. OKPreps.com, your one-stop shop for high school football here in the state of Oklahoma. And that all leads up to week 0, which is at the end of the month, August 26th. We'll have regular season games. I won't talk about scrimmages that week. I'm talking about actual games happening, and I've already got my schedule set as far as where I'm going on August 26th. I'll be headed down to Texas, doing a little double dip. I'll spend the first half at Euless Trinity, where they're taking on Broken Arrow. In the second half, I'll make my way over to South Lake Carroll, where the Dragons are hosting the #1 team in 6A Division I, the Union Redskins. So it should be a good double dip down in Texas. Jinx is traveling to Owasso up here in the Tulsa metro area, so you can catch that game on the 26th. It's going to be a fun month of previewing the season and then kicking off the season on August 26th. And then once the 27th rolls around, that is a Saturday morning, we'll be recapping week 0 and previewing week 1 come that week. So it's going to be a fun month right here on OKPreps.com with the OKPreps Roundup, powered by Excel Therapy. Today we're doing our Class 2A and Class A preview. Already previewed Class 3A in hour number 1. Also revealed our preseason rankings. If you haven't been able to check those out, you can check them out right now on OKPreps.com. Let's dive into Class 2A. Who's last year's champion? Who won it in 2015? The Adair Warriors finally kicked the door in and won the Class 2A state title. They've been so close over the last couple of years. They keep running into that brick wall known as the Davis Wolves in the Class 2A quarterfinals. They finally broke through that wall in a big way last year on the road, and I believe that was the week that was just rainy, cold, nasty weather. Adair goes down to Davis and beats the Wolves, makes it to the semifinals, and makes it to the championship game, and they absolutely dismantle Haskell in the championship game in a way that nobody has been dominated in a title game in Oklahoma high school football history. Adair dominates 2A football. Their one loss last year was in a non-district game to Locust Grove and Mason Fine. They were without their quarterback in B.J. Bradbury. That game was closer than the final score would show. Locust Grove, I believe, won that game by 14 points, but Adair was right there with the Pirates up until the fourth quarter. So they dominate 2A football. They finally beat Davis, and they win the state title. Adair quarterback B.J. Bradbury returns this year to add to his legacy. He's thrown for a bunch of yards and touchdowns. He's also run for a bunch of yards and touchdowns. So Bradbury coming back. He had off-season shoulder surgery last year, missed the first 5 weeks of the season, came back strong and helped them win a state title this year. Healthy off-season, looking good as they head in to the 2016 season. Adair going to be one of the favorites. In fact, they are our preseason number 1 team in Class 2A as we head into the 2016 season. Some storylines to follow as we head into this fall. Look at Holland Hall. They start their first season now competing in the OSSAA as they've spent the last several years competing in the SPC. What that is that conference with Cassidy. If you're not familiar, the private school in Oklahoma City, they play a bunch of teams from Dallas and Houston. That's no longer the case as they are now in the OSSAA. In Class 2A is where they will start in football. And this is a team that has some talent. This is a team that's kind of they're one of those schools that because they play in the SPC, we don't pay a whole lot of attention to it. We still do. We know about the Dutch. We know that they're a talented squad. But they're not playing OSSAA competition, and that's the majority of what we talk about. This SPC has been a weird thing over the last couple of years where you just kind of mention, oh, yeah, by the way, Holland Hall, they're doing pretty well in SPC competition. Now that they're in the OSSAA, they're in Class 2A, don't have to worry about trips to Texas anymore. We're going to be talking more about them in this program and whether or not they're a contender in Class 2A. I think that they have the potential to. They definitely have the talent as well, so we'll see if they're able to back it up on the field. And one of the big storylines, I think that this for me is the number one storyline that I'm going to follow. Adair, how do they handle being the hunted compared to being the hunter for so many years? They kept running into that brick wall that I mentioned that was called the Davis Wolves. They couldn't get past them for whatever reason. They've been close. A couple years ago, they lost a heartbreaker to Davis in the quarterfinals at home. They were so close to finally breaking through. They couldn't do it. Last year, they do. They win a state championship. What happens now? Because now everybody's gunning for the Warriors. They're not gunning for Davis anymore, although Davis still a powerhouse. Let's not mix words. Davis still a power in Class 2A football. But when you're talking about the hunted, it's the defending champ. That champ is Adair now. So what happens with the Warriors? I think the fact that B.J. Bradbury is returning for his senior year. Mark Lippy returns as head coach. This is a team that isn't going to be complacent, but it's definitely going to be a different feeling come Friday nights because they're no longer chasing something. They're defending it. So we'll see what happens with Adair, but I think that this team definitely has the chance to go back-to-back this season. We're going to talk with their head coach in our next segment. We're going to talk more about B.J. Bradbury with the players to watch as well, so stay tuned for that. And then my final storyline is who's this year's Haskell? When you look at last year, Trey Lang, Player of the Year candidate, led the Haymakers to a surprising state championship game appearance. They got absolutely throttled, but they still made it to that state title game. They went, I believe, 13-2, with the only 2 losses being to Adair, 1 in district play, and then 1 in the state championship game. So who's going to be this year's Haskell? That's a big question mark as we go into the Class 2A season. Or is there a Haskell? Or is it just going to be the powerhouses that dominate all season long and end up making it to the state title game? We'll see what happens this year, but I definitely wouldn't throw out the fact that Haskell, we might have another Cinderella run to the state championship game. It might not be from the Haymakers, but it could be from another team that we're not talking about right now. There could be a team that's opening up practice on Monday, and they make a run all the way to the state title game in December. We'll have to wait and see, but that's definitely a storyline to follow, especially with what we saw from Haskell last year. Players to watch, let's start with B.J. Bradbury. Again, what he's been able to do over the last 3 years at Adair, coming into his 4th year now, has been nothing short of phenomenal, beating teams with the pass, beating them with the run. Also a standout on defense for this Adair team. I believe we had him as a first-team All-State selection last year. He's a guy who has been really fun to watch over the last couple of years. And the beauty of it is, heading into this season, he's healthy. He had off-season shoulder surgery last year, kind of limited what he was able to do in September in 2015. But this year, he's healthy. He's ready to go. Definitely a player to watch as we head into the 2016 season. What is he going to do for his senior year, trying to go out on top? I'm definitely interested to see what he's able to do, both offense and defense. He's been a special talent for this Adair program over the last couple of years. Another player to watch, Teron Tuke Moses, running back from Vian, also plays a little corner for the Wolverines. Speaking of injury, he had a phenomenal year last year as a junior, and it was cut short by an injury in Vian. They went from 0-2 to winning the district, to making the playoffs, to being a contender to possibly challenge Adair, until Tuke went down with that injury. He has a new head coach in Gary Willis. We're going to talk with Coach Willis in our next segment about Moses and what he brings to this Vian team. But he's a phenomenal player. I remember he won our Player of the Week award last year because he had 8 touchdowns in a single game. So this is a guy who put up a lot of numbers. He's definitely going to be a preseason All-State selection at running back. Which team, first team, second team, third team, yet to be decided, but definitely one of the better running backs in the state coming back this year. He's going to be fun to watch in that Vian offense. And the final guy for me, Briston Summers from Davis, the quarterback of that Wishbone offense. Again, I talked about it in our last hour about the option offense. Who is going to, I talked about it with Altus, who's going to play quarterback in this option offense? Summers for Davis, the younger brother of Blake Summers, who helped lead Davis to a state championship a couple of years ago. In fact, back-to-back state titles as the starting QB for Davis. Younger brother Briston now takes over. He got some experience last year. I think that he comes into this season ready to go, ready to run the wishbone. We talk about the QB position in an option offense being so pivotal. It's the most important position. You can have all the skill players in the world, but if you don't have a quarterback that can read that offense correctly, then what are you going to do? So Summers, definitely a player to watch, definitely an important piece in 2A football this fall because of what he brings to this offense, being at the quarterback position, running that wishbone offense, and the option attack down in Davis. The preseason favorite for me, I'm going with number 1, Adair Warriors. I think that they are a team to definitely follow. They're not going to be as dominant, I think, as they were last year, where they were just blowing out everybody, where they dismantled Haskell in the state title game. I don't think they will be as dominant, but I still think that they're the number 1 team, preseason favorite as we head into 2A football. Bradbury was a Player of the Year candidate for us last year. I think that he'll do the same thing this fall. Watch out for the Adair Warriors. They won't settle for one and done as the defending state champ. I think Adair is definitely our preseason favorite as we head into this season. Dark horse for me, I'm going back to Holland Hall. I think that, with them being their first year in the OSSAA, they've flown under the radar the last couple of years. That's no longer the case. They have the talent on offense and defense to compete in Class 2A. We'll see what happens there, as they're probably going to start a little bit of a rivalry with Victory Christian in that district there together, as those two teams both in the top 10 rankings in Class 2A. That's going to be a fun district to watch play out, and we might see the birth of a new rivalry here in the Tulsa metro area with Holland Hall and Victory Christian. But that's my dark horse for me. They're kind of on the fringe of that top 10 in Class 2A. But I like the Dutch to possibly make some noise this fall. Let's take our timeout. When we come back, we're going to talk with Adair head coach Mark Lippy. Also going to join us is Victory Christian head coach Ron Smith. Hopeful to catch up with Holland Hall head coach Tad Gross, and then wrap it up with our 2A preview with new head coach for Vian, Gary Willis. So all that and more coming up. Plus, we have our Class A preview to round up the show. This is the OKPreps Roundup. I'm your host, Michael Knight. We're powered by Excel Therapy, the defending champs, the Adair Warriors, and Mark Lippy joining us next.
Your injury recovery goals, plus Excel Therapy's expertise, are your winning game plan. At Excel, our #1 goal is to get you back to peak performance as quickly as possible. Our physical therapy and sports medicine professionals will take you from setback to comeback.
When you tell somebody you're in high voltage, they always call you crazy because you got to climb them poles and work with line and stuff. So something that not everybody can do, kind of like a cop and a firefighter. It takes a special person to do it, to get out and work on electric lines and climb poles and work all hours of the night. It makes me pretty proud, to be in the category of those kind of people that, can do this kind of work. So somebody that people can look up to.
Learn more at osuit.edu/high voltage.
Who's got the best seat on the plane? The pilot, of course. And it could be you sitting there in only 1 year at Spartan College of Aeronautics and Technology. Train to be a professional pilot, and you could be doing what you love. See the world, savor the rush, and get the freedom of soaring above the clouds. The best seat on the plane? It's waiting for you at Spartan College. Call now.
Your injury recovery goals, plus Excel Therapy's expertise, are your winning game plan. At Excel, our #1 goal is to get you back to peak performance as quickly as possible. Our physical therapy and sports medicine professionals will take you from setback to comeback.
Welcome back to the OKPreps Roundup, powered by Excel Therapy. I'm your host, Michael Knight. We do it every Saturday morning from 9 to 11. This is our 3A, 2A, and Class A preview show here live on okpreps.com/roundup. Coming up next week, we'll be previewing Class 5A and 4A on August 20th. We will preview Class 6A Division 1 and 6A Division 2. If you haven't done so already, you can follow us on Twitter at OKPreps TV, and that's how you can keep up with all OKPreps news. Even on the weekend, man, it never stops. We're tweeting out information, we're tweeting out news, we're tweeting out videos, stories, all of that. So be sure to follow us on Twitter at OKPreps TV. And now joining us now as we continue our Class 2A preview are the champs, the defending Class 2A state champions, the Adair Warriors, and their head coach is Mark Lippy. He joins us now on the OKPreps Roundup, powered by Excel Therapy. Coach, how are you doing this morning?
We're doing great.
Now, one of the storylines that I talked about in our last segment with 2A football is how Adair handles this season now as the hunted as opposed to the hunter the last several years in Class 2A. I mentioned how the Warriors kept running into that brick wall known as Davis in 2013, 14, and 15. You finally broke through last year in 2015. And now how does Adair handle being the hunted as opposed to the hunter the last several years?
It's just like we've talked about in the off season with our kids. There's only two things we can control, and then, that's our attitude and our effort. And we're really just focused on our preparation. We're really hungry. We're really hoping we can do something historic because we've been so close the last few years. And there's been a lot of football programs, win a state title, but there's very few that's went back to back. And we're just trying to go out and work extremely hard every day.
What's it like coming into this season, practice opening up on Monday, and you have a healthy B.J. Bradbury as opposed to this time last year? He's coming off-season shoulder surgery. You kind of slowly work him into the lineup. By week 5, week 6, he's the full-time starter once again at QB. What's it like now compared to this time last year, knowing you have a healthy B.J. Bradbury in the fold?
There's really just a sense of urgency because he's working with a new crop of receivers. So we've got a lot of guys that are extremely talented, but they're going to be their first time under the Friday night lights, and it's exciting to see our kids work and go to work every day and try to develop that new relationship with BJ.
And you mentioned the new crop of receivers. You got to replace Brock Martin. You got to replace Cody Eby, two guys who recently played in that all-state football game. Who are some of the receivers that are stepping up in the off-season, spring football back in May, and so far as you plan on opening up fall practice on Monday? Who are some of the receivers that have been stepping up and might be those number 1, number 2 targets for BJ this fall?
It starts with Bo Rogers. He's a senior wide receiver. He's worked extremely hard in the off season. He's been most definitely a bright spot. And a sophomore, Austin Hines, is going to be a great player for us. He's going to try to fill into that Cody Eby role. And we've got another kid out that came back out from baseball named Matt Skelton. He's a senior. He's a tremendous athlete. And then we've got BJ's little brother, Barrett, as a freshman, is going to see some time at receiver, and also Brock's little brother, is going to be a junior and play some receiver on the outside for us.
Now, when we're talking about this ADARE program and talking about B.J. Bradbury and all the numbers that he has put up over the last 3 years, knowing that he has a potential, healthy 14, 15 games ahead of him if ADARE is fortunate enough to make a deep run into the playoffs, what can his – I mentioned, him building onto an already phenomenal legacy. What can his legacy be at ADARE for a program that has been so close? You finally break through last year. You're a contender once again this season, and Bradbury has put up some phenomenal numbers throughout his entire career. What can his legacy end up being at a program like ADARE?
He's most definitely one of the greatest players that's ever played in our program, and ADARE has such a strong athletic tradition, and that's a big statement when you say that.
Yeah.
The thing that's most impressive about him is, especially this past year, is he has made everybody around him so much better, especially as we go into this off season. That's the thing that I'm really most proud of, is the young man he has become, and just his leadership is just it's outstanding.
Coach, we'll get you out of here on this. And, again, I appreciate you joining us here for our Class 2A preview. What's it going to take for ADARE to get back and not be complacent this year? You mentioned earlier ADARE hungrier than ever. There hasn't been too many programs in 2A football that have won back-to-back titles, although most recently Davis did it a few years ago. What's it going to take for ADARE to make it back to that title game this year, get past the Davis Wolves again in the playoffs if you were to match up with them, and win the state title again?
Probably like most everybody, is we've got to remain healthy. Last year we were truly too deep at every position. We're going to put 11 of the best football players in our class on the football field, but behind them is a lot of youth. And, I mentioned it earlier, we have to prepare as hard as we ever have, and we control that. That's the most exciting thing about it, is we control our attitude and our effort, and everything else we can't worry about, and just go to work every day.
Coach, as always, it's a pleasure talking with you. Good luck as you open up fall camp on Monday. Looking forward to seeing how ADARE shapes up during the practice sessions in August leading up to the start of the regular season. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have us on.
That's Mark Lippy, the head coach of the ADARE Warriors, joining us here on the OKPreps Round Up, powered by Excel Therapy. A new team in Class 2A is Victory Christian, and joining us now is their head coach, Ron Smith, joins us here on the OKPreps Round Up, powered by Excel Therapy. Coach, you're in a new class in Class 2A this year, but I want to start the conversation off with some of the guys who aren't on this Victory Christian team, and I'll ask the question, who's going to be harder to replace? Keats Calhoun at quarterback and what he's meant, or John Michael Terry, the guy who's played offense, defense, a little bit of everything for Victory Christian over the last couple of years? Who's going to be harder to replace, Keats or John Michael?
Well, I think the D1 player is going to be harder to replace. He's down at Oklahoma this summer. Went down and watched him, and it's really hard to replace, 6'4", 245, and 4'5" in the 40. Keats is, second all-time leading passer in Oklahoma, and was a great high school player. But for us, we have a couple kids that can really throw the football and understand the offense. They're not Keats by no means, but they certainly are closer to Keats than anybody on our team is closer to John Terry. So, but those are two really good players, and really you can't replace them. You just try to,
right,
get guys coached up to do their job.
You mentioned a couple guys that could end up taking Keats' place at the quarterback position for Victory Christian this fall. Who's in the running for that starting spot at QB as you guys open up fall practice on Monday?
Well, sure. We do not have a quarterback controversy. R.J. Wakely is going to be a junior, and he started for us as a freshman and at Willie linebacker, and he also played there as a junior and was second on our team in tackles, and has been the backup quarterback the last 2 years to Keats and has seen a lot of playing time. We won the games that we did win last year. We won by a pretty good margin, and RJ got a lot of snaps at quarterback and understands the offense, had a great spring, great summer, throws the ball extremely well, and is very strong and brings a linebacker mentality to the quarterback position. I mean, he wants to run the quarterback power. He's 200 pounds, and they're getting close to it. How that weight goes a little over, a little under, depending on how much you ran that day. And it's been tough to keep on weight, these last couple of weeks. But RJ is our starting quarterback. Austin Butler is our backup. Butler is also a starter on defense, and he started in the backfield last year. He played some tailback, played some fullback. He was a quarterback younger in life, and so he's a good player also. So we feel good about where we are at quarterback.
Now you drop down to Class 2A after Victory's been in 3A for quite some time. 2A brings some new challenges as well. You no longer have to worry about a Lincoln Christian or a Locust Grove, but now you have to worry about Adair and Davis and some of the powers that be in Class 2A. What kind of challenges are there as you head into the new class dropping down to 2A football this fall?
Well, sure, and then you forgot the 4 to 7 D1s at Millwood.
Yeah.
And if you think you can win it, you're gonna. It's a tough class. I mean, you've got probably across the board more people in 2A that have a chance to win a state championship than you did in 3A. We're sitting in 3A last year, and we know there was Heritage and Lincoln and 4 or 5 others of us, Locust and Victory and Hilldale, who I thought had an outstanding chance, 6 or 7. But in 2A, you look across there, and there's 12 teams that could win the thing. Now, we all know that Davis, Millwood, and Adair have been the cream of the crop the last, 2 years for sure, and they will continue to be. So you're hoping you can get a group of 2 classes that you can pin together this year and the juniors and make a run at at Lippy. I just listened to you guys a while ago, and there's no doubt, and another key is he's got one of the best players in the state taking snaps. And anytime you've got a D1 player at quarterback in any class, you have a chance to be successful.
Coach, I appreciate your time this morning. Always fun catching up with you. Victory Christian, one of the teams to watch, definitely in Class 2A. We got you in our preseason top 10 rankings. Going to be a fun fall for Victory Christian. Some new names stepping up, not the normal names that we're used to following with the Conquerors now that Keats Calhoun and John Michael Terry have graduated. But the Conqueror is still a contender as you drop down to Class 2A. Thanks so much for coming on for our 2A preview, Coach.
Hey, thanks a bunch. Talk to you guys soon.
Absolutely. That's Victory Christian head coach Ron Smith joining us here on the OKPreps Round Up, powered by Excel Therapy. Victory Christian coming in at number 3 in our preseason rankings in Class 2A. Another top 5 team are the Vian Wolverines. And joining us now is first-year head coach at Vian, as Brandon Tyler resigned over the summer to take an assistant position over in Arkansas. The new head coach at Vian is Gary Willis, and he joins us now on the OKPreps Round Up, powered by Excel Therapy. Coach, how are you doing this morning?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Anytime it can be a Saturday morning and we're talking a little high school football, it's always a good time, and I appreciate your time this morning talking a little Vian Wolverine football as you take over this Vian program after being an assistant there the last couple of years. You have one of the best running backs in the state regardless of class in Teron Moses. So what's this Vian team going to look like this fall? Is it going to be a heavy dose of Teron Moses? Because you also have a solid player in Rain Cloud coming back. Also one of the best names, by the way, in high school football, Rain Cloud. It's not spelled like rain, but it's a phenomenal name. I thought that last year. I still think it this year. What's this offense going to look like for Vian?
It's going to be a lot of fun. We do return Teron Moses, had 1,900 yards in 11 games, had an injury in the playoff, 36 touchdowns. Obviously he's the focal point, but he's also going to be the focal point of every defense. We're going to see 8 and 9-man boxes, and Rain is capable of running the ball. He ran for over 611 touchdowns last year. He'll be a big part of it. Also can sling it around. He threw 13 touchdown passes and 0 interceptions last year. So a lot of offense coming back in those guys. So, as far as the structure of the offense, not going to change much. We're going to be a spread, multiple offense, and it's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to it, and those guys are going to be fun to watch play.
Now, Vian had a bit of a slow start to last year, started 0-2, 2 really difficult games to start the season. You completely bounce back, make the playoffs. Again, you get held up in the playoffs because you lose a guy like Teron Moses. I talked with Tuke this offseason. He was one of our running backs that we had out to Media Day back in May, and he's a small guy. He's not the biggest. I mean, that makes for, some interesting electric runs. He's shifty in the backfield, but he's also, a pretty small guy. Do you try to limit what he takes, carry-wise to try to avoid any potential injury? How do you manage him as a head coach?
You do to an extent. He's going to play when the ball game's on the line, he's going to be there. And like any athlete, he's really worked hard in the weight room. He is a smaller guy. He's 5'8", 160-ish. But the kid bench is almost 300 pounds, and his squat's up around 450. So he's compact. He, it was a fracture he had in his lower leg last year, and just one of those things. But sure, we're going to take care of him, and his backup would start for a lot of 2A football teams. And Bodie Van, going to be a sophomore, rush for 500, replacing him last year. So. We're going to play both of those guys, and we're not just going to beat Tuke to death. But at the same time, he's going to play, and we'll take care of him. But same time, when the game's on the line, he'll be there.
Well, yeah, you have to. I mean, one of the more electric players in all of high school football. You definitely can't be too careful at the same time. Right. You need to be able to get him some reps and get him some carries with the game on the line. Like you mentioned, we're talking with Vian head coach Gary Willis. You're coming into your first year as the head coach of the Wolverine program now. What's it mean to you to take over this Vian program that has been so successful in Class 2A for about a decade now?
Very exciting. Coach Tyler and I have been friends for about 15 years, and I've been at Keys where we played Vian year in, year out, and to come to a program like that has a tradition in the community administration. It is a football town, and I told my wife that there wasn't many jobs that I would care about being a head coach at again, and Vian is one of them. It got me back in the head coaching swing of things, and I'm fired up and ready to go. And it's nice to go to work every day right now. So
yeah, absolutely. And fall practice opening up next week, the season starting later on in August. What's going to be the biggest key for Vian to make a run at a Class 2A state championship? 2A absolutely loaded this year with some really good teams, some really quality players. You can make the argument that the Wolverines might have made a run at a state championship game last year had Moses not get hurt with the leg injury. What has to happen for this year's team to make it to that state title game and possibly contend for a gold ball?
Probably just like other 2A teams. We plan on being there when it's time to make a playoff run, and staying healthy, just like the situation last year. Staying healthy not only with Tuke and at tailback, but key positions. Just when you're in 2A football, but depth. We've got several kids that can go and we're counting on, but at the same time, 2A football, the depth isn't always there to overcome a couple of injuries. So. That time of year, staying healthy means a lot. So that'd be one of the main keys. And then just to gel together, and those kids have been playing together so forever, but just continue to get better. But injuries, staying healthy is the main thing.
Coach, I appreciate your time. Congratulations on taking over a very successful program at Vian. Looking forward to seeing how far the Wolverines can go this season. I'm sure this won't be the last time you and I chat on a Saturday morning, considering that Vian, preseason-wise, ranked number 5 in our Class 2A rankings. So obviously expecting some big things from Vian and this program this fall. Thanks so much for your time this morning.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. That's Vian head coach Gary Willis joining us here on the OKPreps Round Up, powered by Excel Therapy. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to catch up with Holland Hall head coach Tad Gross. Hopefully, we're able to over the next week or so as fall practice opens up. So be sure to stay tuned to OKPreps.com for a video recap of practice, a video practice report, I should say, at Holland Hall as we plan to make it out there to one of their practices as they open up OSSAA play. And in the Class 2A is where they will fall in their first season with the OSSAA. We're going to take our last time out. When we come back, we're talking Class A football as we wrap up our first preview show of a month-long series that we're doing. We're talking Class A, storylines to follow, players to watch. You know the drift now. Also coming up, we got Cashion head coach Lynn Shackelford, Rejoice Christian head coach Brent Marley as we wrap up this edition of the OKPreps Roundup, powered by Excel Therapy.
Your injury recovery goals, plus Excel Therapy's expertise, are your winning game plan. At Excel, our #1 goal is to get you back to peak performance as quickly as possible. Our physical therapy and sports medicine professionals will take you from setback to comeback.
Spartan College of Aeronautics and Technology's flight program is designed to get you flying in your first week. You can spend less time in lectures and more time practicing what you've learned, so you could be certified in only 12 months. Also, our degree graduates are able to go for their ATP certification with reduced flight hours. Train for a career as a cargo, corporate, or airline pilot. For more information on starting an exciting new career, go to spartan.edu.
When you tell somebody you're in high voltage, they always call you crazy because you got to climb them poles and work with line and stuff. So something that not everybody can do, kind of like a cop and a firefighter. It takes a special person to do it, to get out and work on electric lines and climb poles and work all hours of the night. It makes me pretty proud, to be in the category of those kind of people that, can do this kind of work. So somebody that people can look up to.
Learn more at osuit.edu/high voltage.
Who's got the best seat on the plane? The pilot, of course. And it could be you sitting there in only 1 year at Spartan College of Aeronautics and Technology. Train to be a professional pilot, and you could be doing what you love. See the world, savor the rush, and get the freedom of soaring above the clouds. The best seat on the plane? It's waiting for you at Spartan College. Call now.
Your injury recovery goals, plus Excel Therapy's expertise, are your winning game plan. At Excel, our #1 goal is to get you back to peak performance as quickly as possible. Our physical therapy and sports medicine professionals will take you from setback to comeback.
Welcome back to the OKPreps Roundup, powered by Excel Therapy. It's our 3A, 2A, and Class A preview. We got a couple more segments here. We're previewing Class A right now. Then in our next segment, we're going to wrap up the show talking with a couple head coaches that are going to try to contend for the state championship. When you take a look at Class A, last year's champion, no longer a problem for other Class A teams as Stratford finishes off an undefeated season by running away, literally, from Cashion in the championship game as they go 15-0 and are the defending Class A state champs. However, they graduate a lot and move up to Class 2A, so they'll now be dealing with the powers that be in 2A football. They'll be a team that will contend in 2A, make a playoff appearance, but I don't know if they'll have the talent coming back after a lot of graduation of really solid players I don't know if they'll have the talent to contend in Class 2A with some of the bigger boys in that class, but they're definitely a team that could make the playoffs. They are the defending champs in Class A, so we're going to have a new champ in 2016. Some of the storylines to follow as we head into fall practice opening up next week. Cashion, they're two of them. They're two of the storylines. Cashion as a team, they're tired of finishing as runner-up in Class A. A couple years ago, they had just turnover after turnover in a state championship game last year. They had a shootout with Stratford. Stratford made way more plays than Cashion, won in a shootout to win the state championship. They're tired of falling short. They've been able to make it there, but they haven't been able to finish the job. Last year, they didn't have a lot of numbers. I think for their semifinal or quarterfinal game, Coach Shackelford told me that they suited out 19 or 20 guys total. So you're playing 11 of them on the field at a particular time. A lot of those guys having to play both ways, but they're tired of finishing in Class A as the runner-up. I talked with Cashion, their assistant coach anyway, when we were doing our spring football shows last May, and he talked about how the numbers are very high for Cashion. We'll talk with Coach Shackelford about that in our next segment, but they're tired of finishing runner-up, and who can blame them? Their quarterback, Matt Harmon, is now chasing Mason Fine's career passing record. I talked with Matt this summer at our OKPreps Media Day, and I talked with him about chasing that career passing record. He's only a few hundred yards shy of 10,000 for his career. He'll become the fifth player in Oklahoma high school football history to eclipse 10,000 yards. He's chasing that career passing record. All he'll say is he's worrying about a state championship. If he gets the record, fine, which of course, who can blame him? Who would say anything different? Matt Harmon will be, though, chasing that record just set by Locust Grove quarterback Mason Fine. And Brent Marley continuing to build the Rejoice Christian program up in Owasso into one that's a contender. If you look at our preseason rankings, we do have Rejoice Christian in our Class A top 10 as they come in at number 6. They made an immediate impact last year in Coach Marley's first season as the head coach. I expect more of the same this year as he enters year number 2. Some of the players to watch, one guy I already mentioned, Matt Harmon from Cashion, has put up a boatload of passing numbers over the last couple of years. Expect that to stay the same this fall. Caleb Powell from Oklahoma Christian Academy, an athlete who does a little bit of everything for the Eagles. He's a name to watch for as an electric playmaker. I'm going to talk more about OCA here in a minute. And Baron Odom, the last guy to watch as players to watch, tight end and defensive lineman for Wynnewood. He's actually primarily a tight end for Wynnewood, but he's committed to Rice to play defensive line at the next level. So a Division I prospect in Baron Odom, a guy to watch for this fall. But my preseason favorite, they were my preseason favorite last year as well. I'm going with the Cashion Wildcats. I love the offense. I love Matt Harmon. He's going to put up a lot of numbers. And also, he brings a lot to the defense as well. I like Cashion to finally get the job done, similar to what Adair did last year. They've been knocking on the door in Class 2A. They finally broke through last season. I expect the same thing from the Wildcats this fall. They're not going to settle for anything less than a championship in 2016. Now, to give you a dark horse to watch for, I'm going back to OCA, the Oklahoma Christian Academy. They are ranked in our top 10, and they are ranked actually number 5. So how can they be a dark horse? Well, this is why. They've only made one playoff appearance in the last 5 years. They went a total of 20-31 in those 5 seasons, with that playoff appearance coming last year at 6-5. I think that this team is primed to really break out behind Caleb Powell. Their numbers are coming up. They're getting more confidence, and I think that OCA has a chance to have a special season this year. How far can they go? We'll wait and see, but they are a dark horse to watch considering their recent past of not having a whole lot of success during the season, only one playoff appearance in the last 5 years. We have a lot of faith in them in the preseason rankings at number 5, but still they have to go back it up during the season. So they're our dark horse in Class A. We're going to take our last time out right here. When we come back, we're going to talk with Cashion head coach Lynn Shackelford, and we're going to wrap up the program with Rejoice Christian head coach Brent Marley as we wrap up our Class A preview here on this edition of the OKPreps Round Up, powered by Excel Therapy. Cashion head coach Lynn Shackelford coming up next.
Your injury recovery goals, plus Excel Therapy's expertise, are your winning game plan. At Excel, our #1 goal is to get you back to peak performance as quickly as possible. Our physical therapy and sports medicine professionals will take you from setback to comeback.
Spartan College of Aeronautics and Technology's flight program is designed to get you flying in your first week. You can spend less time in lectures and more time practicing what you've learned, so you could be certified in only 12 months. Also, our degree graduates are able to go for their ATP certification with reduced flight hours. Train for a career as a cargo, corporate, or airline pilot. For more information on starting an exciting new career, go to spartan.edu.
When you tell somebody you're in high voltage, they always call you crazy because you got to climb them poles and work with line and stuff. So something that not everybody can do, kind of like a cop and a firefighter. It takes a special person to do it. Get out and work on electric lines and climb poles and work all hours of the night. It makes me pretty proud, to be in the category of those kind of people that, can do this kind of work. So somebody that people can look up to.
Learn more at osuit.edu/high voltage.
Who's got the best seat on the plane? The pilot, of course. And it could be you sitting there in only 1 year at Spartan College of Aeronautics and Technology. Train to be a professional pilot, and you could be doing what you love. See the world, savor the rush, and get the freedom of soaring above the clouds. The best seat on the plane? It's waiting for you at Spartan College. Call now.
Your injury recovery goals, plus Excel Therapy's expertise, are your winning game plan. At Excel, our #1 goal is to get you back to peak performance as quickly as possible. Our physical therapy and sports medicine professionals will take you from setback to comeback.
Welcome back to the OKPreps Roundup, final segment as we welcome you back to the Roundup powered by Excel Therapy. I'm your host, Michael Knight, and again, I'll bring up the fact that this is our preview month. We're previewing 3A, 2A, and Class A. If you missed any of our previous interviews or previews themselves, you can go back and check them out with the Roundup Rewind segments that we'll release later on today. Coming up next week, we're going to preview Class 5A and 4A. The week after, on August 20th, be sure and tune in live to hear the preview for 6A Division I and 6A Division II. Again, if you miss any of those interviews that we have, not only today, but over the next couple of weeks and during football season, you can always go back, watch the show on demand. You can also wait for those Roundup Rewind segments with the individual coach video players that will be available on OKPreps. But we're talking Class A right now, and the #1 team in our preseason rankings are the Cashion Wildcats as they come in as our preseason favorite to win Class A. And joining us now is their head coach, Lynn Shackelford. Coach, thanks for joining us here for our Class A preview. How are you this morning?
I'm good, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's always a fun time as the month turns to August and we start thinking about high school football and start previewing the season. Again, I mentioned we have Cashion ranked #1 in our preseason rankings in Class A. A lot of talk will be about Matt Harmon this fall at the quarterback position, chasing after that career passing record. What kind of off season has Matt had? I know I actually ran into Matt back in July when he was working with a quarterback trainer, so obviously he's had a busy summer trying to prepare for his senior year. What do you expect from him as he heads into his senior season in his last go-around with Cashion?
Oh, I think Matt will be the same player he's been for the last 3 years. I mean, he's a guy that shows up every day to practice, ready to work hard and tries to lead our team. And, he's an incredibly humble guy. And he never, yes, there's a lot of talk about the record. There's no talk about the record in practice or from Matt or from our kids. I mean, their focus is on trying to win football games. And, if he's lucky enough to break that record, then, I'm sure that'll be a disappointment unless we win a state title.
And, I brought that up with Matt when we invited him to our media day, and you're absolutely right about the humble thing. I brought up the record and how he's going to be chasing it this fall. And to be honest, he was a little, not necessarily irritated, but like, the record's great. It'd be great to have it, but at the same time, my number one goal is the state title, and you can understand that after the last couple of years, making it all the way to the state title game, but falling short in the state championship game. How hungry is this team this preseason compared to the last couple, knowing that the last game of the year hasn't ended the way you wanted in that state championship game?
Oh, I think they're extremely hungry. Their work ethic in the spring and through the summer has definitely shown that. We're in the same boat we've been the last couple of years, and we're like a lot of other teams in Class A. We're pretty talented. We've got some pretty good guys in the right positions, but we're going to have to be fortunate enough to be healthy and get some breaks along the way. And if we can do those things, and we like our chances in the playoffs. I like our chances with this group just because there is so much experience, and we do have so many guys coming back from last year's team. But 15 games that's a long season, and a lot of things can happen over the course of 4 months of football. So, but sitting here on August the 6th, we really like our football team.
Now we're talking with Cash and head coach Lynn Shackelford here, OKPreps Round Up, powered by Excel Therapy. Coach, I talked with you a lot last year, especially during the playoffs as you guys were making that run to the state championship game, and you mentioned the numbers just being way down. I remember it was either the quarterfinal or semifinal game. You mentioned how you guys dressed out 19 or 20 guys. How are the numbers as you head into fall camp? Obviously, practice opening up on Monday. You hope you stay healthy. All Class A teams hope that they stay healthy to make a run at it. How are the numbers headed into practice next week compared to what they were at the end of last season, which, let's be honest, they were depleted down to 19 or 20 guys?
Yeah, we suited up 21 guys in the finals, and I think Stratford suited up around 50. So our numbers were definitely not where you'd want them to be, but that's the reality when you're playing Class A football. Your numbers are going to be down from time to time. They're better. There should be around 30 guys playing football this year. We've got a really big freshman class. I think there's 16 freshmen playing football for us, so that'll help. Our numbers will be better, but half of our football team will be freshmen, so the guys that we'll be counting on to play will be a lot like last year. There'll be 15 or 16 guys that we'll be looking at, especially early on in the year, and then hoping that some of those freshmen can get up to speed and be able to be factors and be able to to give us a little bit of depth. But that's life in Class A. That's been our life for 8 years, and we're used to that, and our kids are used to that, and they understand they're going to have to play both sides of the football, and they're going to have to play on special teams, and they're not going to get a lot of breaks on Friday night. But very few times the other team across the sidelines, most of the time they're in the same boat we're in.
Right. And we'll get you out of here on this. You mentioned it being August 6th, practice opening up on Monday. You like this team with the guys that are coming back. You like what you have. What has to happen for Cashin to finally get over that hump and win the state championship, make it back to that state title game, and raise the gold ball as opposed to raising the silver one the last couple of years?
Well, I think we're going to have to do a lot of the same stuff we did last year. We're going to have to really enjoy being around each other, play as a team. I think last year that we epitomized that more than any team I've ever been around. Our guys got along great, played for each other. We're going to have to do that again this year. And then we're going to have to get lucky and catch some breaks along the way, just like anybody else that wins a state title will tell you. It's not an easy thing to do. So we're gonna play 1 week at a time. We're not going to talk about December until December gets here because there's a lot of football games in between then and now. And hopefully we can go into that second week of December with as healthy a football team as we can be, and we can play mistake-free football and have an opportunity to win a gold football. But that's a long time between now and then.
Yeah, a lot of football to be played between now and the middle of December. Coach, I know that this won't be the only time that you and I talk on a Saturday morning. Thanks so much for joining us here for our Class A preview, and good luck as you open up fall camp on Monday.
You bet, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for all you guys do for small school football. There's not a lot of publicity for those guys, so I really appreciate it.
Well, it helps if you win. It definitely helps if you win, and Cashin has been winning over the last couple of years.
Yeah, life's a lot better when you win, definitely.
Coach, thanks as always, and I'm sure we'll catch up soon.
You bet, man. See you later.
That's Cashin head coach Lynn Shackelford joining us here. Cashin, the number 1 team in our preseason rankings, the team that's going to try to break through this fall and contend for a state championship. Rejoice Christian, they come in at number 6 in our preseason rankings. And joining us now is their head coach coming into his second year at the helm at Rejoice Christian is Brent Marley. And, Coach, first off, thanks for taking some time this morning and joining us here on the OKPreps Round Up powered by Excel Therapy. I know it's about to be a very busy time for coaches around the state with practices opening up next week.
Thank you, Michael, for having me, and always appreciate what you guys do for high school sports.
Now you're going into your second year at Rejoice Christian. Last year, go through some growing pains, a new program. You're trying to build it up. And, I've driven past the building of the new stadium the last, I'd say, 2 or 3 months, and it's really starting to come together. How close is that stadium? Will it be ready opening day?
Yeah, it will be. We actually got the release to start practice on it. So our elementary teams have been getting out there this last week. And the locker room building just behind the home bleachers should be done by the end of this next week. We're actually having an all-school move-in today. Probably had about 150 people out here, 200 people early this morning at 8 o'clock. Families helping just move stuff off the trucks from the old building into the new high school and middle school. And so anyway, we're gonna make it. Cutting it close, but we're gonna make it.
Going to be opening up that new stadium, and if anybody has driven on 169 there north of Owasso, you know what I'm talking about with that new stadium that they've been building right there. It runs parallel with the highway. What do you expect from the Friday night lights and the atmosphere, especially those first couple of home games? You're breaking in a new stadium, plus expectations are definitely high with Rejoice Christian. We have you ranked number 6 in our preseason rankings. You had a solid year last year. You're coming back with a lot of talented guys. What do you expect from that, especially the home crowd, the first couple of weeks as you break in a new stadium? It's obviously going to be a special event.
Oh, definitely. So many people in the community are just so excited, about what's happening. And, Owasso, you've got Owasso, and then, of course, Rejoice. And so it's a very community-minded school, even though we're a private school. A lot of people are involved with Rejoice here in Owasso. And people are just really excited about getting things going in the new stadium. And been making comments, and families have been coming out beforehand when they really weren't supposed to be out there. You catch people out there walking around and looking at everything. People just really are antsy to get the school year going. And they had about a 2-week break-in period on the lights, and so people were coming down 169 at night and seeing the lights are on, and they would text me, what's going on, or, the lights are on. And, yes, you have to answer those questions and stuff like that. But it's running right there north and south parallel with the highway, right across from the Tulsa Technology Center. It's a really, really going to be a neat environment, we believe, for Friday night football.
And now, obviously, that environment will be a whole lot better if you're winning on those Friday nights. And Rejoice expecting to have a solid 2016 season. Let's talk a little bit about the team coming back. Who do you have coming back specifically that should be shining under those brand-new lights there at the stadium?
Well, first off, we return our whole offensive line besides one. We only graduated one last year on the up front. So I expect those guys to have a great year. I was able to hire in the off season my offensive line coach that spent 5 or 6 years with me over at Victor Christian, and Coach Barnett's came over with us and joined our staff, and does a great job with our strength program as well. And so those kids, and then we've got quite a few receivers returning. We had a couple kids that were ineligible last year due to transferring. That can play receiver, will be very tall at receiver and have a lot of depth there. Kate Henson's one that comes to mind. Is one of our better playmakers on the offensive side last year, played slot receiver He probably will be our quarterback, and then we've got another young freshman in Riley Walker that is going to be a really good quarterback too. So those two have been kind of going at it. And the tailback position, we've got depth there. We've got three tailbacks that have been looking good, and one's a transfer. And then the other two have been here. But anyway, the numbers have been growing. We had about 29 kids last year, and we're up to about 41 right now. And so, the facilities, I think, bring excitement and bring kids in as well. But we've got to go, perform. Nothing's been handed to us. And we had a good year last year. We did. But we graduated some good players too. All 4 linebackers last year were seniors. So we've got some definitely, big holes to fill, and kids are going to have to step up and make it happen.
Well, Coach, we'll get you out of here on this. What's a reasonable expectation for this team? Does this team have the potential to win a state championship? Can you make it to a quarterfinal, semifinal run? What are reasonable expectations as you head into year number 2 with this Rejoice program, opening up the new stadium? We have you guys, again, I mentioned ranked number 6 in our preseason rankings. What's that reasonable expectation for this team? How far can you guys go this fall?
Well, we were not even in the picture last year, and then we finished, I guess we're one of the final 8 teams to be playing in Class A, and that was a further step than people thought that we were capable of. I was actually a little surprised when I saw that we were picked so high this coming year. Everything's got to be worked for, and do I think that we could get to that point? Yes, I do. But I tell the boys, our biggest deal is just focus one day at a time, be the best we can be, and take care of the next game. It's the most important game. Hopefully we can take one more step further than we did last year with the quarterfinal finish and build on that. State championship, I'm not going to say it's not impossible, but we've got a long ways to go. I think we have a chance to be very good offensively. We may be better at the receiver position all the way around and more depth than I've ever had in my coaching career. But defensively, we've got a ways to go. And so we all know how important defense is. So anyway, we'll see how it works out. We've got some tough people like Hominy and Cashin, and I could go on. There's some great football teams in Class A. So anyway, we've got our work cut out for us for sure.
Well, it's going to be a fun season, that one is for sure, at least from a media standpoint. I'll have fun talking about it, breaking it down, and recapping the games on Friday night. Might not be as fun for the coaches during the week to have to prepare for all these teams that are going to be contending for a state championship, one of them including Rejoice Christian. Coach, it's always a pleasure talking with you. Congratulations on the new stadium. I'll have to make it out there for a game or two this season, or at least a practice, just to check out the new facility. And I'm sure this won't be the last time you and I talk on a Saturday morning. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Class A preview, and good luck as you open up fall camp next week.
No, thank you, Michael. You're welcome out here anytime. Great talking to you too.
I appreciate the kind words. That's Rejoice Christian head coach Brent Marley joining us here to wrap up this edition of the OKPreps Round Up, powered by Excel Therapy. Want to remind you, coming up next week, we got our 4A preview and our 5A preview. We're going to talk about the preseason favorite, dark horse, storylines to follow, players to watch, and, of course, we're going to have coaches from each class on to talk 4A and 5A football. Also, next week, we're going to break down our preseason all-state teams. If you want to catch that before we talk about it next Saturday, we will be releasing them on OKPreps.com. Also, practice does open up starting on Monday. So starting on Monday, we will have practice reports, whether they be articles, videos, whatever they may be. We will have multiple practice reports on teams all across the state of Oklahoma. I'm going to be out at practices all over the state starting on Monday, so be sure to make OKPreps.com your one-stop shop for high school football, especially here in the preseason, because we're going to have a lot of coverage leading up to that week 0 on August 26th. For all the coaches involved, we thank you for joining us here on this Saturday morning. Be sure and tune in live next Saturday from 9 to 11 for our 5A and 4A preview show. Until then, have a wonderful weekend and stay here with OKPreps.com. This has been the OKPreps Roundup, powered by Excel Therapy.